How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and if you're on Sprint or if you're on any carrier for that matter, you have a lot of different phone options to choose from. You have Windows Phone, you have Android, you have iOS, and BlackBerry, and you have a slew of different form factors. Touchscreen, physical QWERTY keyboard, sliders, and more. So you may be coming into this, let's say you're a Sprint customer or you're switching to Sprint, and you're like, well, I'm not really sure which form factor is the best for me. Well, we do Dogfight videos, so we can help you figure it out. On Sprint, on one hand, you have the BlackBerry Bold 9930, a new BlackBerry, one of the new 3 BlackBerries that have come out in the past couple of weeks, and it's toting a 1.2 gigahertz processor, 5 megapixel camera, and it's showing the world that it's ready to compete with the big boys on Android and iOS. Then you have one of the flagships, the HTC EVO 3D dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, 3D capabilities with dual 5 megapixel cameras, a front-facing camera, and more. So big display over here, awesome physical QWERTY keyboard over here. So if you're somebody that text messages on a regular basis, maybe this is the one for you. If you use 3D content, you like to shoot pictures, shoot videos, maybe this is the one. But there are a lot of features that are hidden in these devices we're going to figure out in the video. Is this the device for you? Is this the device for you? We'll find out. But first, special thanks to my boys at Best Buy. They hook us up with a bunch of phones like this so we can give them to you in the One Paw Bandit game. So when you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, help you take those 3D pictures and get everything set up so when you walk out the door, you're working. Let's check it out. So in part 1, I was all like, you know, the keyboard's the best on the 9930, and if you need the keyboard, that's where you should go. But there are plenty of other features on both of these devices that makes it really challenging to decide which one is the best. Let's take a look at the browser on both of these devices. We're going to load up PhoneDog.com, a little site I like to call PhoneDog. PhoneDog.com loading up on both of these. And you know, this is one of those places where the, hang on a second, PhoneDog.com, I can't type and talk at the same time. This is one of those places where the 4.3-inch display on the EVO 3D really comes into play, because you're going to see this as they load up. You know, the 2.8-inch display over here, it's nice. It's one of the bigger BlackBerry displays out there, at least with the candy bar QWERTY devices, and it is touchscreen, obviously. But when you get into pinch to zoom, it's a little bit hard to do it on a 2.8-inch display. But we're going to wait for both of these to load up, and it could take some time because I'm on Sprint's 3G network, and it's been terrible as of late. Data speeds have been absolutely atrocious, but it seems like we're loading the header up over here. But you can see, I'm going to jump the gun a little bit and go ahead and play around with pinch to zoom while we're waiting. You can see pinch to zoom very responsive even while the page is still loading. You can see very responsive. You're going to see some checkerboarding just like that every now and again, but still nothing to really complain about. You know, it does load up pretty quickly, and even though you do see the checkerboarding, it disappears pretty quickly and goes away. But you can see on the 2.8-inch display here, here's PhoneDog's page. It's loading up. It's loaded to the point where we can at least look at it, and you can see, you know, the text is pretty small. It's part of that 2.8-inch display. But you can see pinch to zoom is very fast, and you know, I can easily zoom right in to what I'm looking at. But still, you can see I'm even having some challenges doing the pinch to zoom because I'm limited as to where I can travel with my fingers on the screen of this device. Then you look at something like this, where you have a ton of space on it, and I can easily access pinch to zoom. And let's see if at least the header is loaded. Yes, like you can see pinch to zoom, easily moving in and out. Over here, we'll go over here to the Facebook icons, for example, and you can see what I'm talking about. You're still very responsive, and again, you can use it in portrait or in landscape mode. Now, I'm a little bit of a sucker for Motorola's custom user interface, because here you'd see some transition effects if we were on Motorola's UI, but you don't see that in HTC since it's very blocky, kind of blah transition between portrait and landscape. It's still very quick. And then in the menu, you have the ability to add bookmarks. You can look at different windows. You can go to more. And when you look at Windows, for example, you'll see that it leaves off a nice little preview right where I left off on the page. So if I want to add a second page, for example, I'm not actually going to load anything up, but I'm going to go back to the first window over here and go to PhoneDog. And you can also access the same thing by zooming out and doing it that way, pinching all the way out. But you can see PhoneDog's loading up, and it's going to take forever and a day to load up. But you can see pinch to zoom has been very responsive, even while the page is still loading. Little to no lag on the pinch to zoom front. So both of these are decent. Now, you know, in terms of browser and browser alone, it goes to the EVO 3D, and the reason why is because, you know, bigger display, easier to use pinch to zoom, very responsive. This is a tremendous improvement, though, from BlackBerry devices of the past, but on the browser front, the EVO 3D takes the cake. Let's jump right into camera and take a look. Now, both of these are running 5 megapixel cameras. This one has a dual 5 megapixel camera for 3D pictures. It shoots video at 720p. This one's a single 5 megapixel camera that also shoots video at 720p. So let's bring in something to take a picture of, and we'll just do the another BlackBerry Bold 9930, because somehow I ended up with like 5 of these thanks to PR. Like the Verizon one came in, the Sprint one came in, then the T-Mobile one came in, and then a couple of my personal ones later, and I have 5 9900 and 9930s. So we'll see here, camera loading up, and you can see I have the nice toggle over here between 2D and 3D. So right now I'm in a 3D picture, and you can see those 3D effects when I migrate, or when I move the camera around. You can see it happening. We're going to zoom out and try and get a good picture here, a good 3D picture of the bold. And you can't see this in the camera, obviously. You can see the effect that it's having. But you can't really see the 3D capabilities in the camera, but you can see it when it's out. And I'm actually looking at it, I can see it. But still, you can switch it right over here by going. This is something I actually didn't know, and I reached out and asked people about this. There's a little 2D toggle when you do press it. You can switch back and forth between 3D and 2D. So a nice touch if you don't take it in 2D the first time. But you can see 2D shots as we're comparing apples to apples here. Now this does have autofocus, so you can get in pretty close and still get a pretty decent shot of bold and of the BlackBerry. Now over here, 5 megapixel camera, no autofocus other than what's actually built into the camera. There's no, actual autofocus, no half press to autofocus, full press to take the picture. So we're going to go ahead and take the picture. And you can see it's just a crappy, for lack of a better phrase, it's just a poor camera. And again, if you're in well-lit situations, your person's 8 feet away, you're behind a big building, and it's sunshiny outside, you're going to be fine. But in any of these low-lit situations, or you're taking something up close, like watch how bold starts to kind of get a little grainy and kind of hard to see as I get in closer, because there's no autofocus. So when you're taking pictures of a shot of text, or you're taking a picture of some homework for a friend, or something like that, you're going to have some issues with the bold's camera. So camera front and camera front alone goes to EVO 3D. So let's take a look here and just see. I want to go through and show you some of the quick differences between BlackBerry 7 and between Android 2.3. Now you can see here's the call screens for both of these. You have the ability to dial out, obviously by pressing, dialing the numbers over here. And if I wanted to load up the phone dog, for example, I could load up the, actually, let's see, I don't think I have any on here, but you get the idea. I can start typing the name, or I can type the number, and it'll bring it right up. Now over here you have your numbers over here, and you can see the contacts: Billy Bob, customer support, old man Baker, and old man Baker, and the number pad down here. And then you have your call log, with the ability to remove the dial pad and then go to call as well. Now showing that I called customer support a second ago when I was testing the call capabilities, just to make sure it was working okay. And this is something I don't like about Sense, is it groups all of the stuff into one. So it groups all of the missed calls, all the received calls right in with your contacts, so it creates kind of a jumbled mess, if you will, between people that you've dialed and people that are actually in your contacts. Minor thing, but it's a frustration for me. But then you have your dial pad here, and then your dial pad over here, and that's what, kind of just to give you an idea of what it looks like. To jump into contacts, because I want to show you the differences here as well. So let's look at customer care, for example, and we'll go to customer support to kind of compare some apples to apples. You can see the differences here. Now HTC does a really great job with Sense of keeping all this very, very organized. And you can see down here you can access your messages, your mail, your details, updates and events, gallery, call history, so I can see the last time I called customer support. I can see any text messages that I've ever sent customer support, and then I can see more details about the actual content. And over here you do get some recent activity, which is a nice little touch. You can see the latest message, the latest email, the latest phone call, but still it's not nearly as detailed as Sense UI, so I have to give them some real kudos for that. Now BlackBerry just updated their app world. It's painfully behind iOS, the App Store, and then Android with the Android market, but it is an improvement from what it was before. They updated it to Android, or to App World 3.0, and let's take a look at that. So into App World we go, and we'll see here see the differences between 2.0 and 3.0. So a little bit of a design revision here, but it's nothing compared to the Android market, which is actually in the process of being updated itself. For whatever reason, this one's still running the old one, and it doesn't seem to want to update to the newest version of the Android market. But just to give you kind of a comparison, we're not really looking as much at design as we are actual content. That's something I wanted to focus on. But you can see 3.0 over here, and you can see the options: games, apps, my world, and then payment options. So we can go right into apps, and you can see it's grouped them out. And you can see some the carousel up here with some suggested applications, breeze into student life. And what I like about these is, we'll go into that one, for example, college survival guide. And you can see within this actual folder, if you will, it shows you a bunch of different applications. So it shows you Remind Me, Student Buddy, Sports Tracker, Schedule Maker, WordPress, etc. So you have a bunch of different options. So when you see that stuff up there, you can see, see if I can find another one. All these are individual apps, but you'll often see stuff that works with BBM or something like that, and you can click on that, and it brings up a specific application. But then down here you can see the categories, and I can scroll over to top free, top paid, new arrivals, and then go to top rated, and then back to categories. So I can go over here to, let's say, entertainment, for example, click on that, and I can bring it right up and if it decides to load. So we'll see it's loading here. It's a little bit of a different background as well, different look to it, but still functionally about the same. Now the real pain here, and you can see this is very similar to BlackBerry App World 2.0. So the real pain here, only a few thousand apps in BlackBerry App World, 200,000 plus apps over here in the Android market. So that's something to keep in mind. If it's on iOS, you know, at least in terms of the way I've always seen it in my time in mobile, it always comes to iOS first, or maybe iOS and Android, and then it kind of trickles down to Windows Mobile, and then trickles down to BlackBerry. So I mean, you look at stuff here, you got a ton of options. I mean, hundreds of thousands of apps. eBay, a lot of the different flying apps, a lot of different travel apps, you know, some Sprint. Let's look at their dedicated apps, for example, and you could see a bunch of different options here. Basically anything you want: McAfee, mobile security, iHeartRadio, a bunch of different options. The Weather Channel, which is a couple of these are available on BlackBerry as well, but chances are that app's going to be available on iOS and Android, but it's not going to be available in the app world. So something to keep in mind: if apps are your thing, you know, you're really big on a bunch of the stuff you see on TV, you're like, I want to download that app, it's going to be Android for you. So something to keep in mind. But the app world, not as advanced as it needs to be. If BlackBerry wants to continue to compete, that's one place they're going to have to spend a lot of dollars on and continue to focus on, is their app world. Still, design-wise, an improvement from the past. Let's take a look at speed test here, and I don't have a speed test app pre-installed on the BlackBerry, so we'll take a look at speedtest.net over here just to get an idea of 3G speed test. Now, I'm going to warn you, they're absolutely terrible. For whatever reason, Sprint's going through some severe network issues. Their 3G is terrible in the places I've tested it: New York, specifically Manhattan and Queens. Here and in Orlando a couple months back, I've been having some issues. They seem to be persisting, and it's just terribly slow speed. So we'll begin a test here so you can take a look at what these speeds look like on paper. Well, I guess not on paper because we're in the digital age. This is on screen, if you will. So wait for it to load up. Now, call quality on these have been pretty decent on both. The earpiece is nice and loud on both of these. Now, one thing I continue to get on the 9930, which actually shocked me because this is really a business device. A lot of people, when I talked to them on the 9930, they said, "You sound like you're in a wind tunnel. Do you have your air conditioning on? Do you have your windows down? Are you blowing into the phone? What's going on?" I never heard that on the EVO 3D. So actually the wireless radio seems to be less over here. When I took it to Sprint Dead Spot, this one sounded less choppy than the EVO 3D. The wireless radio is a little iffy on the EVO 3D, whereas on this one, it sounded fine. The calls connected a little bit better, but people had trouble hearing me. So it's kind of 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other there between call quality. But you know, battery life, you're going to get about a day with moderate use on this one. 1,730 milliamp hour battery over here. 1,230 milliamp hour battery over here. With moderate use, text messaging, emailing, calling, looking at some apps, browsing the web, I've never been able to make it through a day in my time with the 9930. I always make it to about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and the battery requires a recharge. If you want to take a look at my personal 9930 just that I'm using right now as part of the BlackBerry challenge, you can see, I'm going to load it up here so I can take a look, 40%. I pulled this off the charger at 8:30, and it's at 40% right now, and that's with moderate use. So just to give you an idea, it's probably going to die around 6 o'clock. So something to keep in mind. It's not the best battery in the world. You can get extended batteries, you can get additional batteries, something to keep in mind, but still. Take a look at these network tests, and you can see the kind of range. I mean, 1.18 megabits per second, not too bad, but you look at some of these, and they're absolutely terrible. Now, obviously this is a dogfight. A winner has to be chosen, and so the biggest winner of the dogfight, the HTC EVO 3D. This is really the best device all around between the two of these. Now, if you're a text messenger, you're an emailer, you're somebody that uses a keyboard a lot, the 9930 is going to be a good device for you, and it's definitely the best BlackBerry that RIM has ever made. I mean, it's a substantial improvement over anything that's ever come out of Waterloo. It's a great design. It's lightweight. The battery life's pretty bad, but otherwise it's a decent device with a great design, and it fits well in the hand. It's fast. It works reasonably well, but then again, you know, if you want those media capabilities, you want that big screen, this one just has more capabilities. When you really look at it, you're like, I have 200 big ones, 200 Benjamins. What am I going to spend those $200 on? You're going to get a better bang for the buck out of the Android device than you are on the 9930. Unfortunately, between the market apps, between the options that are available on this, between the larger display, between the customization options, and the fact that it's an OS that doesn't look like it's out of 1998, that's going to be your winner. Now, like I said, if you're a text messenger, you're an emailer, this is going to be your phone because of the awesome keyboard. But anything else, I'd highly recommend the HTC EVO 3D. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with both of these devices, so keep it locked in the site, and be sure to like us on Facebook because we're giving away a bunch of tablets as part of our greatest tech giveaway ever at Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Follow me on Twitter as well. Let me know what you think about this dogfight, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at my fan page, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it locked in the site, and as always, We'll see you next time.